Freedom20.com. Use code BILL for 15% off.
Hey guys, Columbo here, reminding you that if you belong to an organization like a school or a church, or your kids are part of a group or a sports team that needs to raise money, there's no better way to do so than with a TJ's Pizza fundraiser. TJ's Pizza has been helping local organizations raise money for over 30 years to the tune of tens of millions of dollars. A local company helping local people, and there's lots of different ways TJ's can help you raise big money fast. Get started now at tjspizza.com.
Do you owe the IRS $10,000 or more in back taxes? Are you being audited or investigated? Has the IRS sent you a letter demanding payment? You may not owe what they claim. Make this free call to the tax doctor now. Let them negotiate with the IRS on your behalf.
800-240-4586. 800-240-4586. That's 800-240-4586.
Time now for the O'Reilly Update message of the day. On this Friday, it is very interesting to understand why Donald Trump won so big in Iowa and is leading by huge margins in all the polls. And here is the reason. About 2 years ago, the far left made the calculation that they could damage Donald Trump in the American court system, both civil and criminal. So you saw in New York State charges leveled against Trump for his business dealings, for Stormy Daniels, in Georgia for election interference, state charge, in Florida for classified documents, and then in Washington, D.C. for something related to January 6th. Well, what do all of these cases have in common? They are all being run by far left people. And that is by design. We'll throw so many things at Trump that we will destroy him in the process. He will collapse under the weight. Well, it didn't happen because Republican, traditional, conservative Americans know the fix is in. And they actually sympathize with Donald Trump. I'm Bill O'Reilly. I approve the message by writing it. You can reach me, Bill at BillO'Reilly.com, Bill at BillO'Reilly.com, name and town if you wish to opine. Now let's go to the mail. Jeffrey Alsbach, Fort Myers Beach, Florida. When did the progressive movement begin in our government? It seems very recent. Did it start with Obama? How did it become so powerful and take over traditional values? Good questions. So the progressive movement has always been around. Eugene Debs, D-E-B-S. After the Russian Revolution, and I'm not going to get too pinheady here, a bunch of Americans said, you know, this communism thing's pretty good. Let's do this. And in the 1920s and 30s and 40s and 50s, it was, it was around. It was never dominant, but it was around. It morphed into what they call democratic socialism. And that happened a little bit before Obama took office, but steroids when Trump got in, because the progressives saw an opening. Trump's Hitler, Trump's a fascist, Trump's this, Trump's that. So our progressive movement is the answer. That's how it evolved. Jim DiNatale, Maryland Heights, Missouri, listening to your description of the proposed California wealth tax sounds a lot like real estate and personal property taxes we have in Missouri. No, those are local taxes. A wealth tax would be the federal government or your state, you say Missouri, but you pay your taxes, property taxes, to your county, not to the state. Judges have ruled that the county can tax your property to pay for schools. And logical. Okay. Wealth taxes, the big boys come in, they evaluate everything you have, and then they charge you for what you already have paid taxes on. I pay 8.5% for everything I buy in New York State. I've already paid my tax, but they want to charge me more. It's unconstitutional.
In a moment, something you might not know.
Do you want more online safety and privacy? I know I do. That's why I started using NordVPN. It guards me against various internet threats. Digital trackers, malicious websites, and malware-infected downloads? Back off. I choose to browse with more confidence. I choose NordVPN.
To avoid digital threats, turn on NordVPN. It's trusted by millions of users. Just visit NordVPN.com. One of the fastest VPNs on Earth will block web trackers, malicious websites, and malware-ridden downloads. It will also encrypt your internet traffic while maintaining a smooth connection. So improve your digital privacy and protection against hackers with one simple click. Get the special deal at NordVPN.com and enjoy safer internet daily. NordVPN. Cybersecurity built for every day.
Hi, everybody. It's your buddy Todd Showalter, along with my buddy Joey V from The Right Mind Show. You know how they always say, new year, new me? Well, we don't say any of those stupid things here. But you know what? Every week, we do have a new guest right here on The Right Mind Show. Isn't that right, Joey V?
Stop being so stupid and forgetful. Put it on your calendar. Saturdays, 5 p.m., Right Mind Show. Get in your car. Don't drive anywhere. Just look at the radio until sound comes out.
And if you do miss the show because you're watching Matlock at that time, make sure to tune in to rightmindshow.com. That's rightmindshow.com for all the show replays. And plus, what better things do you have to do on a Saturday at 5 o'clock?
The Vic Porcelli Show.
This is Ben. Hi, Ben. We got a serious issue in Chicago. Immigrants coming into their community. It could be making its way down here. They're talking about 17,000 migrants from Venezuela moving to Chicago. I've been a Democrat my whole life, and since October 7th, everything going on, I don't know how this is values for everybody. The people who have already been working hard and trying to build a life for themselves here.
Vic Porcelli, weekday mornings at 9 on News Talk STL.
Now, the O'Reilly Update brings you something you might not know. In the early 1960s, children in the United States led the world in literacy, math, science, and athletics. Today, the USA has dropped to 11th place on the Global Education Index. Here's where you can find the smartest kids on the planet because they're not here anymore. Number 5, Finland. School day in that Scandinavian country, just 6 hours long. The academic year is a month shorter than here in the States. Despite the lighter schedule, students in Finland have the highest scores in engineering and biology. Next, Taiwan. Kids in Taipei, the capital, enjoy 20 years of public education, mandatory, spanning from nursery school to college. To graduate, students must pass proficiency in computer programming and robotics. Fluency in English is mandatory in Taiwan. Number 3, Hong Kong. Education in the former British colony offers more options than any other place. From the age of 2, parents choose which track their child can pursue. Possibilities: technology, civil service, medicine. The second spot goes to Japan, the land of the rising sun, has the highest graduation rate on Earth. 99% of adults have a high school diploma. And the smartest kids in the world can be found in Singapore. Teacher salaries there start at $65,000, not a lot, but all kids are issued special laptops that ban social media and YouTube. The city-state ranks number 1 in literacy, science, and emerging fields like artificial intelligence. And here's something else you might not know. The situation is bleak here in the USA. Test scores have been falling since the 1980s. Just half of 8th graders are proficient in science, 31% in math, 26% in reading. That's a disaster. Back in a moment.
If you own a vehicle with less than 200,000 miles and have an auto warranty about to expire or have no warranty at all, listen up. Car Shield has a low-cost month-to-month vehicle protection plan that's now available to the public. Save on out-of-pocket expenses on future auto repairs. So please call Car Shield now to find out how you can pay almost nothing for covered auto repairs. 800-925-7584 for a free quote. This protection plan is at an all-time low in price. Drivers who activate the vehicle protection today will also receive free roadside assistance, free towing, and car rental options at no additional cost. So please call for your free quote, 800-925-7584, 800-925-7584. Hey, what do you have to lose? 800-925-7584. Thank you for listening to the O'Reilly Update. I am Bill O'Reilly. No spin, just facts, and always looking out for you.
This is News Talk STL. KLGY HD3 Clayton, K270BW Bellefonte, KNBS Bowling Green. This is News Talk STL at 1019, 94.1, and always streaming at newstalkstl.com.
News this hour from townhall.com. I'm Keith Peters reporting. Tens of thousands of people rallied on a frigid Washington Friday for the annual March for Life. House Speaker Mike Johnson was among the speakers at the event and says the Declaration of Independence is clear about the right to life.
So it's from the very beginning that our founders boldly proclaimed the self-evident truths, that our rights do not come from government, our rights come from God, our Creator.
After speeches on the National Mall, participants marched to the U.S. Capitol building and Supreme Court on behalf of the unborn and pro-life policies. A Russian official says a Ukrainian drone has struck an oil storage depot in western Russia, causing a massive blaze. Correspondent Charles de Ledesma reports.
The strike would be the latest incident in Ukrainian forces' apparently extended campaign of attacks on Russian soil ahead of the war's 2-year anniversary. Russian officials and news reports say 4 oil reservoirs with a total capacity of about 1.6 million gallons were set on fire on Friday after the drone reached Klimsai, a city of some 70,000 people located 40 miles from the Ukrainian border. Ukrainian national media, quoting an official in Ukraine's intelligence service, said Ukrainian drones also attacked a gunpowder mill in Tambov, 370 miles south of Moscow. I'm Charles de Ledesma.
A grand jury indicted Alec Baldwin on an involuntary manslaughter charge Friday in a 2021 fatal shooting during a rehearsal on a movie set in New Mexico, reviving a dormant case against the actor. Special prosecutors brought the case before a grand jury in Santa Fe this week, months after receiving a new analysis of the gun that was used. Baldwin was lead actor and co-producer on the Western movie Rust. On Wall Street, a good day as the Dow was up by 395 points, the Nasdaq rose 255, the S&P advanced 58. More at townhall.com.
Retirement Outlook.
If your retirement account is mostly stocks or bonds, listen closely. The future of your savings may be more uncertain than ever before. Hi, I'm Paul Stone, CEO of Colonial Metals. The sad truth is, our government continues to eat away at our freedoms and security. In economic times like these, run around the flagpole by lunatics in Washington, I look to the most trusted store of wealth in human history, physical gold and silver that you own. At Colonial Metals, we specialize in helping folks with IRAs and 401ks and other retirement accounts move their savings into physical gold and silver. If you'd like a free gold investment kit, give us a call today at 820-800-8000. My team is standing by ready to rush a free gold investment kit to you. You may also qualify for $7,500 in free silver and a free safe. Call 820-800-8000 now. That's 820-800-8000.
Colonial Metals is not a financial advisor. Consult with your advisor before investing.
That's 820-800-8000.
From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
I'm First Alert 4 Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton. We've got a cold one tonight, a low down to 3 degrees, wind chill minus 10 to minus 15. Dangerous wind chills in the morning. After that, we'll have sunshine and 18 for the afternoon high with a wind chill a little above 0. Not as windy Saturday, but winds about 5 to 15 miles per hour. Sunday, partly to mostly cloudy, a low of 8, cold morning, but 30 in the afternoon as we get a bit of a warm up. Monday, there is a chance for some light freezing rain changing over to rain. Just a heads up on what's coming next early next week. That's the latest from the First Alert 4 Weather Center. I'm Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton.
This hour of News Talk STL is brought to you by Stifel, serving investors for over 130 years. Contact your Stifel financial advisor at stifel.com. That's STIFEL.com.
Are you tired of the corruption and special interest groups controlling our state and cities? Are you tired of yelling at your TV or your car radio because important issues like crime, homelessness, education, and taxes are being blocked by special interest groups? It is time for Missourians to declare our independence from special interest groups corrupting our government. Join the Freedom Principle Mo today, and you can be an integral part of creating the largest statewide member-led organization fighting for America and Missouri First policies. The Freedom Principle Mo is fighting to put the voters back in charge of our government. The Freedom Principle Mo has been a leading voice in Jefferson City, fighting for our police and making our community safer, exposing corruption at the local level and in Jefferson City. It's time to start making our elected officials start listening to us and finally start passing legislation that protects our freedom and protects Missouri's values. Visit our website at freedomprinciplemmo.org and join today and make 2024 the year we get something done.
St. Louis's new choice for conservative talk.
Everybody has a right to have their opinion and voice their opinion.
Live and local.
I always approach it from this standpoint. Leftist malfeasance is presupposed.
This is News Talk STL. Tim Jones and Chris Arps in the afternoon.
The 9 most terrifying words in the English language are, I'm from the government and I'm here to help.
The more you remove voting from Election Day, the more opportunity you're offering for people to commit fraud.
Are you not entertained? Are you not entertained?
I think the Democrats are so short-sighted in this tactic they have now to just cheat at any cost to win elections.
You're a lying dog-faced pony soldier. You said you were, but now you got to be honest. I'm going to be honest with you.
What are we doing wrong here?
As a former leader in the House, I think you can put your finger on it. It's called leadership. We don't have it.
Tim Jones and Chris Arps.
Good afternoon. Welcome into the Tim Jones and Chris Arps show here on a fantastic Friday. It's January the 19th, 2024, 4:06 in the p.m. Central Standard Time. You're listening to 101.9 and 94.1, or perhaps you're listening to us anywhere around the planet at newstalkstl.com, on our apps, on our streaming speakers, or any other such, maybe Facebook, Rumble, Twitter. Hello, everybody. Good afternoon. Chris Arps.
Tim Jones, you got to do Friday like you mean it, man. That was kind of weak.
Like my sounder?
Yes.
Like my little sounder? It's Friday.
There you go.
There it is.
Now it's official.
Did that sound just like it, Joey?
Columbo and Katie actually broke the button. They played it so many
did they?
times before us, so I can't even get it to work anymore. So I'm glad we got it live.
I did not know what Ken Williams had in mind when he made me do that. I did it randomly one day just for the heck of it, and then it's become something that they use
That's
throughout.
part of the station now.
The station, yeah. Chris, I'll tell you what. Our little intro there has the famous quote from Gladiator from Russell Crowe. Are you not entertained? Chris, how can you not be entertained as we rock and roll towards the New Hampshire primary on is it on Tuesday next week?
I'm not sure. Monday or Tuesday.
I think we're back to normal Tuesday, right? I think it's on Tuesday. And everybody is barnstorming the Granite State right now. We're going to talk to Robert Cahaley on Monday. So, folks, you're going to want to tune in for that. He is the famous pollster of the Trafalgar Group. Chris, we've got the March for Life going on. It occurred today in Washington, D.C., the annual event, which, Chris, I'm glad to see they've continued that because even though Roe v. Wade has been overturned and we're in a Dobbs v. Jackson world, the fight for life continues. Politically, a lot of people have a lot of different opinions depending on what district you're in, what state you're in, what senatorial district you're in. People have different political views, but Chris, as a cultural issue, the Republican Party continues to be the party that wants to promote life.
Yeah, the fight continues because now the liberals want to have this mifepristone, the chemical abortion drug. They want to make that where you can just get a prescription and have it mailed to you. And we've had Dr. Tobler on saying how dangerous that drug is. It shouldn't be just sold over the counter like that. And then we have certain states, California and New York, which are eventually going to have abortion all the way up to birth and maybe after birth. So the fight is not over, as you said.
Correct. There is a party of life and there is a party of death. And the more people realize that's true, I think the Republican Party will continue to expand its tent. There's disagreement within the Republican Party about, what bills should be passed in what states. But as far as the party that is the culture of life, I think you have to look at the grand old party.
No doubt.
Chris, let's get to our first guest. He's joining us right out of the gate here. We're going to speak with Shawn Carney, president and CEO of 40 Days for Life. 40 as in the number, 40daysforlife.com. Shawn, good afternoon. Welcome back to News Talk STL. It's great to have you on with us today.
It's good to be back. Thanks for having me.
Mm-hmm. Shawn, as we were just talking, the March for Life was this morning in Washington, D.C. A friend of mine, Shawn, sent me a video of the crowd. I understand the weather. We've had some rough weather here in the Midwest this week, and we had a little dusting of snow last night. It's back down in the teens today as the highs. I understand we sent some of that weather to the East Coast, and that Washington, D.C. was except for these hardcore pro-lifers, Washington, D.C. It shut down again because anytime there's any snow in the air, it shuts down. But I understand, Shawn, the March for Life was as well attended this year as it ever has been. Give us a sense for what it's like there on the ground, from what you've seen and heard, and how important that is that the nation continues to stand for life.
Yeah, it's a great crowd. The snow was not a deterrent. I was here years ago when we had Snowmageddon, where everybody kind of had to bus out. We had like 10,000 of us marching in 9 feet of snow or whatever that was. And I'm a Texan, so I see snow, I turn into like a 7-year-old, waiting for Santa Claus. And so it's awesome, and it's very encouraging. And all we hear is that we're supposed to walk around and be embarrassed that our Supreme Court overturned Roe v. Wade, and now, as Hillary Clinton has said, women are dying in the streets from self-induced abortion, even though we don't see any dead. All of that the world was supposed to end, and it didn't. And I think one of the advantages that people need to understand is, yes, it's great. We march in Washington. Yes, next week we'll march in San Francisco on the West Coast. We'll have a huge event on the steps of the Lincoln Memorial on the anniversary of Dobbs in June. We're going to be a little warmer. And but all of this boils down to the fact that at the grassroots level, the pro-life movement was ready. And you have things like 40 Days for Life. We're in 1,600 cities. We have pregnancy resource centers that outnumber abortion providers 5 to 1. We are built for a post-Roe America, and the abortion industry is not. They're very dependent on Washington. They're very top-heavy, and that's why you see the insanity coming out, because for the first time they haven't had the comfort of Roe, and they have to discuss abortion and defend it, and it's indefensible.
Shawn, we heard that there was a surprise guest today at the March for Life rally. Want to play something for you right quick?
Thank you all for being here. It's a great example that you're setting. It's testimony for the sanctity of life. It's a great day for a march. It's a great day. This is football weather. Let's go!
And that, of course, was Jim Harbaugh, the winning coach for the University of Michigan. It's nice to see someone who's high profile like that, not afraid to stand up for life.
After he won the national title,
yes,
freaking stud. No, it's great. And look, I'm an SEC guy, so I hate the Big Ten. I don't think they should be allowed to even participate in football. So it's great, but man, no, I definitely had Michigan Blue on for the national title. He's spoken for Michigan Right to Life. And I want to recall something. These moron alum at Michigan, when he spoke for Michigan Right to Life, they wanted to fire him. They tried to cancel Jim Harbaugh because Roe was overturned. And, of course, at some football press conference, some ding-dong reporter was like, "What do you think about the overturning of Roe?" And he was like, I love it. I think it's great, and we should want unborn children to be born. And it was like, we must cancel him. Michigan's very liberal, the university. And I think that they're glad that they kept him now. I don't know. Maybe winning the national title brought some sanity into that university.
Exactly.
It's so fantastic.
Great.
Folks, we're speaking to Shawn Carney, president and CEO of 40 Days for Life. Check him out online everywhere, every day at 40daysforlife.com. Shawn, it is wonderful to have big names and famous people to not be afraid and to have the courage to stand up for life. We actually spoke with Sam Sorbo, the wife of Kevin Sorbo, earlier this week, and we talked to her about educational choice and freedom, and we know she's a big advocate for life as well. But, Shawn, isn't it also just as critical and important to make sure we also make reference to the fact that And this is something I've seen in the photos. And my young daughter went a few years ago. The young people, Shawn, that show up, right? The media likes to pretend, first of all, that the March for Life doesn't even occur, that nobody goes. There's not these massive, overwhelming crowds, bigger than just about any event that happens in Washington, D.C. every year. And Shawn, they definitely don't focus on the fact that young people, especially young women and young girls, are there because this is a woman's issue, right? The left doesn't own the monopoly on women's issues. It is a women's issue of bringing new life into the world, isn't it?
It is, and you can't talk about abortion if you're a man unless you're a pro-abortion man, which was an all-male Supreme Court that gave us abortion. So, yeah, it is. It's Generation Z who – this is one of the good things. Well, the bad thing is they tolerate everything, right, and they're kind of nuts. But in that tolerance is they are the most pro-life generation at their age for any previous generation. So the baby boomers were the most pro-abortion when they were 18, 19. They gave us all this cultural upheaval crap. And then their kids were even more pro-life. But now Generation Z is the most pro-life at their age. And, I mean, they all have a picture of their own ultrasound, you know. So it's really encouraging. There's a lot of young people. I'm 41 years old. I mean, I'm like ancient at the March for Life. It's awesome. And I think that really, really helps because this is just based on science and common sense. And young people know, well, if we can get rid of Billy because we just don't want him, or we can get rid of Sally because she's a girl and we wanted a boy, can they get rid of me? And I think that young people understand that. And it's very, very encouraging. It's, you know, the pro-life movement is led by women. The majority of pro-life Americans are women. That's something even Bill Maher pointed out when Pro was overturned. He said, I didn't know that. I didn't know most of them were women. You know, we're sitting here saying it's a woman's issue. Well, the women are siding on life because they're not insane and they understand natural law and common sense. So it's very encouraging to see. People need to be edified. This issue will come up. It is not a political loser, as many ridiculous Republicans think. It is a political winner, as we saw in 2022 with the landslide victories of Governor Abbott, who owned the heartbeat bill, Governor DeSantis, who owned it, Governor Kemp, who owned it, and who won in the landslide and didn't cower when this issue came up.
Shawn, I'm glad you brought that up. NRCC Chair Richard Hudson says that Republicans need to get out on front on the abortion issue. Don't be afraid of it. He said we need to point out that the Democrats' position on abortion is for any reason up until the moment of birth, paid for by taxpayers, and the Democrats are really investing in abortion. They spent $75 million last year on abortion ads. The Republican Party spent 17.
Yeah, and we need to question the Democrats. You know, do you agree with Bill Clinton when he says abortion needs to be safe, legal, and rare? Hillary Clinton in 2016 said that abortion needs to be safe, legal, and rare. I mean, really rare. She just kind of went into the phrase of a category of Hillary makes everything worse. But why does it need to be rare? Does it need to be rare? Because they're going to say no. They're going to say no. When is it appropriate for us to regulate abortion? Never. Okay, so France, Germany, they're like locking women up. England, I mean, Europe is all 12 weeks except for England, and so you know, Germany or Italy would be one of the most conservative pro-life states in America if they were part of our country. So I think that marrying yourself to Roe v. Wade, which allowed abortion through all 40 weeks, which no country has except for Vietnam, North Korea, and China. Putting ourselves in that category, they need to defend that. And they also need to defend why in the world are we doing surgeries on unborn children? Why in the world do we prevent pregnant women from getting on a stinking, roller coaster? I mean, that's just absurd. And so they have to go on offense. It's such a great issue to go on offense on. And they need to have courage. And I think Trump is getting a little better just in the last few weeks because he was bad in the fall. They were all bad in the fall and last summer, and I think it's going to get better over time.
Yeah, Shawn, talk about that. I know that's something you've been focused on most recently. Now that the dust is settling from the Iowa caucuses and we're looking towards the Granite State and the New Hampshire primary next week. Talk about what you've seen now in the data and the numbers that have come out of Iowa. Despite what the media tried to do to Trump, he overperformed, as he's always want to do, and he seemed like he overperformed especially amongst pro-lifers and evangelicals. Why does he continue to have? Why do they continue to? Why does he continue to be so popular amongst those groups?
Because I think with Trump had to do a lot of convincing in 2016. He doesn't have to do that now. When he looks at people of faith and says, "I'll defend you against this government overreach. I'll defend you against the DOJ. I'll defend you against the religious bigotry that you're seeing from the federal government," people believe him. People believe him. And in 2016, I mean, there was a great article by a leading evangelical said Trump is Constantine.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you may not want him at Thanksgiving. He may not be next to you in church, but he's going to protect your religious freedom.
Interesting.
And I think there was a lot of truth to that then, but now it's proven. I mean, he's by far the most pro-life president ever in the history of our country. He did what he said he was going to do. And I know he's very stubborn, you know, with other things. And they're like, Trump doesn't listen to anybody. That was absolutely the opposite when it came to religious liberty and when it came to pro-life. He listened to the most wonderful evangelicals and solid Catholics that he had access to. He actually literally had more Catholics in his administration than any previous president. And it worked. There's a trust there. I also think all of the media coming after him, and even, I mean, I'm sure there were a lot of Republicans that were like, "Hey, all this Russia stuff is fake, right? Like he didn't there was no collusion, you know." Mm-hmm. And then of course it all comes out it was fake and it was made up, and all that stuff has helped them. It's like the more they go after him, the more it helps them. But he has a proven track record. There's also the other element that there's so many other non-cultural issues that are just a mess. And he's proven to fix that. The economy, unemployment, oil and gas, everything he did just turned to gold as far as his policies. And I think people know that and they trust it.
Shawn, House Republicans this week passed 2 abortion-related bills. One of those bills was expanding resources for college students who carry a pregnancy to term. We had a representative from a pro-life group on a couple of weeks ago telling us that SIU Carbondale, Southern Illinois University in Carbondale, which is about 50 miles from here, has a population of 21,000. It's a college town, but they have 3 abortion clinics. Can you believe that?
Yeah, it's across the border. We have 40 Days for Life there. So they're trying to drag people from Missouri, and that's kind of their new model. Those bills are great. We did that in Texas. We passed the heartbeat bill, 3 or 4 years ago now, and we had a surplus. And Greg Abbott allocated $150 million for women who chose life. And there were so many Democrats in Texas that supported the heartbeat bill, and people were like, "You're crazy! We're all so divided on abortion." No, we're not. No, you're not going to have a Democrat in America raise their hand and say, "I will not give a single mother any money." It's just not going to happen. And if we're going to give $500 million to Planned Parenthood, as they did record number of abortions the last reported year, then we can support the moms who choose life. And so I think it's great they're doing that. That's another example. Glad y'all brought that up, of just a political winner. Like, we're the nice guys. We're the good guys in the argument, right? We want the birthday parties. We want the support for women. It's just all they want to do is exploit rape victims to sell abortion.
Mm-hmm.
That's just been their MO. Mm-hmm. And I think that we can have such a more positive approach to this issue, and that's definitely one of the ways to do it.
What a wonderful discussion to have on the anniversary date here, the March for Life, of course, occurring in Washington, D.C. Shawn Carney, President and CEO of 40 Days for Life, is our guest. Shawn, we'd encourage people to go to your website, 40daysforlife.com. Thanks so much for being with us again. God bless, and we'll talk to you again soon, I hope, throughout the election year.
Thanks, Shawn.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, guys. Thank you, Shawn, as well. Boy, he's a kind of definition of the happy warrior.
Well, he's had the pro-life movement has had a lot of victories in the last couple of years, and especially with the Dobbs decision and the overwhelming turnout for people to come out on March on a frigid afternoon, a frigid morning, so he should be a happy warrior.
Chris, there was an email sent out by our colleagues and friends at the America First Policy Institute. They had a big showing today at the March for Life. Yes, it looks like Snowmageddon up there. Once again, everybody's in hats and coats and gloves, and there's snow on the ground. And I love the sign. There's a big picture of a bunch of young ladies, and they're holding a sign that says, "Civil rights begin in the womb." Yeah.
You know, I've seen a billboard, a pro-life billboard, that says the most dangerous place for an African-American baby to be is in her mother's womb, because African-Americans lead the demographic for abortions, even though we're 13% of the population.
Wow. That is a sobering comment.
It is.
Indeed. Means we have a lot of work to do. That is for sure. 4:24 in the PM. We've got a lot of work to prepare for because we've got our legal eagle, Zack Smith, about to join us next. Take a quick break here. Go nowhere. You're going to want to hear about all the current updates and statuses of all the lawfare cases against Donald Trump, what's pending before the Supreme Court. We know that Chevron deference doctrine may be hopefully a thing of the past as Joe Biden continues to try to elevate his administrative state. Zach will break it all down for Chris and I and all of you when we come back here on the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show. 1019 94.1 News Talk STL.
Follow Tim Jones on Twitter at Speaker Tim Jones.
No, I'm just getting warmed up.
From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
I'm First Alert 4 Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton. We've got a cold one tonight, a low down to 3 degrees, wind chill minus 10 to minus 15. Dangerous wind chills in the morning. After that, we'll have sunshine and 18 for the afternoon high with a wind chill a little above zero. Not as windy Saturday, but winds about 5 to 15 miles per hour. Sunday, partly to mostly cloudy, a low of 8, cold morning, but 30 in the afternoon as we get a bit of a warm up. Monday, there is a chance for some light freezing rain changing over to rain. Just a heads up on what's coming next early next week. That's the latest from the First Alert 4 Weather Center. I'm Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton.
What happens next?
Iowa, thank you. We love you all.
Happens right here.
The big night is going to be in November when we take back our country.
1019 and 94.1 News Talk STL.
Chris Arps here for my friends over at Royal Banks of Missouri. Royal Banks of Missouri is a full-service, locally owned and operated independent community bank, which means that they are not some big out-of-town conglomerate that doesn't know your name or cares about you. Royal Banks of Missouri offers 17 convenient banking locations throughout the St. Louis area, including locations up in northeast Missouri and Hannibal, across the river in Jerseyville, Granite City, Illinois, as well as 2 locations in St. Charles. Royal Banks also have 200 ATMs across the Midwest to give you free access to ATM transactions and withdrawals. And they also have convenient interactive teller machines, ITMs, that I really like, that will connect you with a banker virtually and in real time. You know, as a customer, you'll find their personal service is second to none. Royal Banks of Missouri offers a full range of financial products, including auto loans and home mortgages, online and mobile banking, plus wealth management services. You can also open a checking account online anytime, 24/7. You can do that by going online to royalbanksofmo.com, royalbanksofmo.com. Royal Banks of Missouri, the community bank for your community.
From home improvement to replacement, do-it-yourself electrical projects can be shocking. That's where Grasser Electric can help. They've been lighting up St. Louis for years. From ceiling fans and dimmer switches to repair or replacing your electric. No job is too big or too small for your home or business. Grasser Electric will even install emergency backup generators. So call Grasser Electric today before the sparks start to fly. 636-441-5200 or go to grasserelectric.com.
This is Everett Jones of Jones Air and Water Treatment. For the months of January and February, we're here to make your drinking water, cooking, ice, tea, coffee, and other water-based beverages clean, crisp, and free of contaminants. Joey, what do you think of yours?
We use ours here at the station every day, and it's great. There's no cumbersome big bottles, no plastic waste, and it seems endless.
Call us now at 636-899-1040 and schedule your free analysis and let us get you on the way to higher quality water. You can be a filter or buy a filter. Find us on the web at joneswater.com.
This hour of Jones and Arps is brought to you by Stifel. Contact your Stifel financial advisor at stifel.com. That's STIFEL.com. Tim Jones and Chris Arps in the afternoon.
Make no mistake, conservatives are here for unborn babies and their mothers. I introduced the Supporting Pregnant and Parenting Women and Families Act to ensure the administration does not block funding for pregnancy care centers across the country, like the one that helped Kirsten. They are providing support and empowering women to raise their families.
Welcome back to the Tim Jones and Chris Arp Show. It is 4:29. Before we get to Zack, Tim, the reason that I played that clip is I got a disturbing phone call from a good friend of mine today telling me there was a burgeoning movement to boycott 1019. And
what did we do now?
And the reason for that was folks, you know, we are big supporters of Thrive St. Louis. They do great work in helping unwed mothers and mothers that are pregnant and need help. Well, there's a person out there that thinks that we are running Pride, Pride, St. Louis commercials instead of Thrive St. Louis commercials. So I just wanted to dispel that as like, no, we are not supporting Pride. We are supporting Thrive St. Louis, the Pregnancy Resource Center. So I just wanted to get that out.
Haters don't need to hate.
Exactly.
It's Thrive.
Thrive.
With a TH.
Exactly,
yeah,
exactly.
Thrive, as in the folks that help women, babies, fathers, and families.
So those of you that are listening that maybe heard that, get the word out. News Talk STL is not supporting Pride St. Louis. We're supporting Thrive
We are not.
St. Louis.
We are not.
Joey, hit it.
Oh, it's all perfectly legal. You are out of order. You're out of order. You're out of order. The whole trial is out of order.
Zack Smith, legal fellow with the Heritage Foundation.
You know, I ask you a lot of predictions. Can you predict what the Supreme Court probably will do with this action?
Zack, I'm sorry I had to use up about 37 seconds of your time there, sir, but I thought we had to clear that up.
Absolutely. A confusion worth clearing up every day of the week.
Thank you, sir. Zack, I want to dive into this case, Joseph W. Fisher versus the United States. A lot of people are saying that case may throw a monkey wrench in the case against President Trump, the January 6th case. It's about obstruction of an official proceeding, which was originally geared towards the Sarbanes-Oxley financial transactions. Jack Smith is apparently trying to use that law to prosecute Donald Trump and January 6th supporters. Expound more on that, sir.
Yeah, that's exactly right, Chris. But before I do that, I will say I'm actually talking to you and Tim from Tim's old stomping grounds in the Missouri State Capitol today. So it's very good to be in Missouri. But it's very cold here.
I was going to say, did you bring another coat? Bring a big coat?
A couple of coats. It's so cold. But for the Fisher case, yeah, look, you're right. The Department of Justice, they've used this essentially obstruction statute that's an issue in the Fisher case. They've interpreted it very broadly, and this has been one of the major charges they've used in prosecuting many of the folks who were involved in January 6th. And so depending on what the court decides in this case could have very real, very lasting implications, not only for many of those January 6th prosecutions, but also potentially for some of the legal charges against President Donald Trump as well. And in fact, some people think one of the reasons the court took this case is because it presents an indirect way for the justices on the Supreme Court to address some of the core legal issues in the Donald Trump case without having to do so within the context of the Donald Trump cases, where obviously their decisions would be either, praised or pilloried, depending on which side of the political aisle you follow.
Zack, I have an illegal immigration question for you, but can we ask you, are you on a, the legislature's not in session today, so Chris and I are wondering what you're doing slinking around Jefferson City. Is this like a top secret mission that we can't talk about?
No, it's not. The Missouri Federalist Society chapters held their annual meeting today.
Oh,
it was an all-day event at the Capitol, and the folks were kind enough to invite me up to talk about one of our favorite topics, rogue prosecutors and all the trouble that Kim Gardner's caused for the great state of Missouri.
Oh, that's fantastic. Hope you had a great time. We Chris and I probably had a lot of mutual friends that were with you. today. Zach, there was a lawsuit filed this week, a $100 million lawsuit filed by the family of 20-year-old Kayla Hamilton. And Zach, the facts of this case are rather horrific, but I'm going to read through some of them because people need to know how serious this is. The lawsuit partially blames Joe Biden's open border policies for Kayla's murder. The illegal immigrant and MS-13 gang member who raped and strangled Kayla to death with a telephone cord was apprehended after entering the country illegally in March of 22, but was released after being labeled a, quote, unaccompanied child. There was a whole host of other grieving parents who unfortunately also spoke with Congress this week about similar circumstances. Zach, Donald Trump got in trouble for saying something along these lines, but Zach, those families would still likely have their children with them, but for Joe Biden's open borders policies. Zach, this is a serious, real-life situation that results when you allow your borders to be open for people who want to come here and not commit any harm, but also those who want to come here and commit all kinds of criminal activities. This is a catastrophic situation, isn't it?
Well, absolutely, Tim. And look, I don't know why. Well, I do know why Donald Trump got in trouble for saying that, but he was absolutely correct. And so are you and everyone else who has made the same point. Look, regardless of the reason individuals are coming here, when you come here without following the proper process, by definition, you enter this country and your first act here is an illegal act by coming across the border in an improper manner. But we know that many of the people coming across the border, yes, many are here to better themselves and their families, but there are a number of people who are here and intent on doing harm to our country and harm to the citizens in our country. And unfortunately, this is just one in a series of sad stories that we know of where people have entered the country illegally. They've often been deported, and yet they come back again, time and time again, and continue to commit heinous crimes, and even crimes such as DUI, which is a very serious crime, which has real-world consequences, and end up hurting someone or killing someone because of that. And so, yes, one of the things that needs to happen is for the Biden administration to do their job and enforce our immigration laws. Unfortunately, as you and I both know, that is probably not going to happen.
Zach, the Supreme Court last week left in place an appeals court ruling that required a middle school in Martinsville, Indiana, to allow a transgender boy to use the bathroom that corresponds with his gender identity. I thought we had a conservative court. What's the deal here?
I don't know what the deal is, Chris, except to say that I was very disappointed that the court didn't take up this case. And that's especially true when you consider that it only takes 4 of the justices to agree to grant cert, to agree to hear the case. Maybe they thought there were potential vehicle issues with this particular case, meaning there's some factual issue in the record that would make it difficult to resolve. Maybe some of the conservative justices think they don't have enough votes in order to get the preferred outcome in this case. So we don't know at the end of the day why the court did not take this case. The court should have taken this case. And unfortunately, it's students around the country who are going to continue to suffer as a result of that.
Zach, you would have been proud of me. I did my speaker stump speech, which is every day here in the 5 o'clock hour. I did it yesterday, Zach, on the Chevron doctrine, because I understand the hearings. The hearings were this week, I believe, at the Supreme Court. And I tried to juice that up as much as I could. You know, Zach, you and I get excited about this, but I was explaining to all of our listeners, especially those in the small business world, whether they work for small businesses or run small businesses, how important this case was. Zach, could you give us a flavor for how the oral arguments went and your complete speculation as to what the result of this case might be and what it might mean for small business America?
Yeah, well, I've been saying, Tim, the oral arguments yesterday were a little fishy when the court heard these cases because these cases revolved around fishing regulations that were promulgated. Overall, look, I think the oral arguments went well for the people who were challenging this administrative agency action, who were challenging the Chevron doctrine. And the case was being argued by Paul Clement and Ramon Martinez, both excellent excellent lawyers. And if you listen to the oral argument, it certainly seems to me like a majority of justices understand that the Chevron doctrine is harmful, that it ultimately transfers power away from the people's elected representatives in Congress, out of the hands of duly appointed judges, and into the hands of unelected, unaccountable bureaucrats. And Paul Clement, in particular, I encourage everyone to go listen to it, did a very good job. He had about a 4 or 5 uninterrupted stretch of oral argument, which is unheard of, really, in modern Supreme Court practice, where he was able to catalog all of the reasons Chevron is harmful across a host of business areas, across a host of different practice areas, and really able to tell the justices why it would actually be better for the law, why it would bring more stability to the law if they, in fact, overruled Chevron and allow power to, once again, go back to Congress, go back to the people's elected representatives, where the framers of our Constitution intended it to reside, instead of in the hands of unelected, unaccountable bureaucrats.
We're speaking with Zack Smith, legal fellow at the Heritage Foundation. Zack, Chevron is actually the big case that's on SCOTUS 101 this week. The title is Chevron on the Chopping Block. What else did you and Giancarlo talk about this week?
Well, we also talked about the court agreed to hear a series of cases that came out last Friday. These were likely the last cases that the court will be able to hear at the end of this term. One that's particularly important is a case called the City of Grants Pass versus Oregon. In that case, the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals, which covers a big swath of the West Coast, issued an absolutely insane ruling that essentially said the cruel and unusual punishment clause in the Eighth Amendment prohibited the City of Grants Pass, Oregon, from enforcing any, really, of their anti-vagrancy laws. Essentially, they had to let homeless individuals sleep anywhere at any time unless they provided shelter for each and every individual who was homeless. The Ninth Circuit followed that up with another crazy ruling involving the city of San Francisco. And so I think it's good that the court took this case. And I think it will certainly bring clarity in terms of letting cities and states and towns know what they can do constitutionally in terms of dealing with the homelessness crisis that so many of them are facing.
Yeah, I saw that. And they're basically saying that it's cruel and unusual punishment to enforce vagrancy laws.
Yeah, and you know what's absurd about that, Chris? There's a lot that's absurd, and I can get on my soapbox here. But if you look at the text of the Constitution, it is the cruel and unusual punishments clause, which means that it deals necessarily with what happens after someone has been indicted, prosecuted, and convicted. And yet the Ninth Circuit has applied it in a completely different context that I think any reasonable person would say the framers of the Constitution never anticipated it being applied to.
And that is Zack Smith. I keep wanting to rename you Jack for some reason.
I keep wanting to make him the prosecutor.
Exactly.
Absolutely not.
Zack Smith, no relation, of course, right? Legal fellow at the Heritage Foundation, co-host of the podcast SCOTUS 101. You can reach him at TZ Smith on Twitter or X, or you can find his work on heritage.org. Zack, thank you as always. Have a safe trip back to Florida and stay warm, my friend.
Thanks. Hope you guys stay warm as well. Take care.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you.
Very much. He's made quite a few trips here to
He has.
Shawnee State. Yeah.
I know he's a Florida guy, so I know this cold weather is not good for him. He can't wait to get back to Florida.
He's a northern Florida guy.
Northern
so
Florida, exactly.
He doesn't have the tropical in him, but yeah, it's probably 60 to 70 degrees down there.
Yeah, he was complaining last week and it was 40, so I don't have a lot of sympathy for him. Chris, or Tim, my wife got an interesting email today regarding the St. Louis County Library, and I'm going to discuss that on Chris's Corner when we come back.
Oh, boy.
You're listening to the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show on 101.9 94.1 News Talk STL.
Made in St. Louis for St. Louis. It's News Talk STL.
You want answers? I want the truth. You can't handle the truth.
bright light. Driving with my dad and he told me it ain't Christ-like. I'm just trying to find...
From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
I'm First Alert 4 Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton. We've got a cold one tonight, a low down to 3 degrees, wind chill minus 10 to minus 15. Dangerous wind chills in the morning. After that, we'll have sunshine and 18 for the afternoon high with a wind chill a little above zero. Not as windy Saturday, but winds about 5 to 15 miles per hour. Sunday, partly to mostly cloudy, a low of 8, cold morning, but 30 in the afternoon as we get a bit of a warm up. Monday, there is a chance for some light freezing rain changing over to rain. Just a heads up on what's coming next early next week. That's the latest from the First Alert 4 Weather Center. I'm Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton.
Mike Ferguson in the morning.
Okay, the Republicans at the Missouri Capitol aren't going to hug it out this week, but at least they're not going to fist fight this time. At least I don't think they will. We've got the update on Monday.
Mornings starting at 5:30 on News Talk STL.
We just had Eric from Newsteaders in here today. We were cutting some new promotional ads for everybody at Newsteaders, Newsteaders Fine Jewelers, and we're going to have Eric and Diana in here in a couple weeks or so to have a little in-studio visit and talk about all the things they've got for all y'all and those important people in your life because, yep, I hate to tell you, we just wrapped up one big holiday season, Valentine's Day, right around the corner. Newsteaders Fine Jewelers. They are our jewelers. They're my dad's jewelers, my mom's jewelers. We love Newsteaders. They are a family jewelry store. The nice thing about Newsteaders is you walk in and all the same people are there. Richard's there. His family members are there. Eric's there. It's so warm and inviting, right? Because then they remember what you need and what you're looking for because you can put a little wish list together, and they're there to serve you because they do everything here in St. Louis. Nothing gets shipped out. You can trust them. They're the most trustworthy, honest people, honestly, I've ever met in my life. And they've been in our region for decades, since 1961. They take great pride in helping you and serving you and making your families smile. What do they do at Newsteaders? How about everything related to jewelry repair? They have fine watches there. They do master engraving. Richard's one of the last remaining master engravers in the country. I saw this. He showed me this little medallion he created. I said, you did this by hand? It's amazing. He can do anything with everything. Jewelry appraisals. They have got these really cool Sinatra-themed Bulova watches. I got my eye on a couple of them. Pearl and bead restringing, quality ring resizing, and so much more. They feature the best diamonds around. In fact, they even named their website after them, wowdiamonds.com. This is the time of year to get out all that old jewelry that's just sitting in the back of your closet or in your chest and make it wearable again. You can all do all of that and more at Newsteaders Fine Jewelers. As I said, you can look them up 24/7 and see everything they got to offer for you at wowdiamonds.com. Newsteaders Fine Jewelers, wowdiamonds.com.
Pigeons, they are everywhere, and they're very good at dive bombing freshly washed cars. Wellington Environmental reminds you those droppings are more than a nuisance. They can be a major health issue, especially massive droppings on buildings or in parking garages. So who do you call to safely clean it up? You do what many hospitals, universities, public buildings already do. You call Wellington Environmental. Wellington Environmental has been dealing with all kinds of hazards for 35 years. Special people, special skills, special equipment. Wellington gets it done. So to avoid health issues ranging from pigeon droppings to mold to chemical leaks, contact Wellington. 314-644-4930. 644-4930. WellingtonSTL.com. Wellington Environmental. Your world cleaner, better, safer. Be well with Wellington.
I'm Dr. TJ, owner of the Institute of Natural Health, co-owner of Optimal Nutraceuticals, and the host of Wellness 101. Wellness 101 is designed to cut through the nonsense and provide you common sense, science-based information regarding health and wellness. On the show, we discuss topics like thyroid health, gut health, hormone optimization, and many others. Our show airs Saturdays at 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. and Sundays at 11 a.m. and 3 p.m. right here on News Talk STL. For more information, visit us at inhstl.com. That's inhstl.com.
Hey, it's Tony Colombo. The new year is upon us, and the cleaning pros at Zero Res are starting things off with a bang with what I think is their best offer ever. Book a cleaning in January and mention the Colombo special, and you'll get 3 rooms of carpet cleaned starting at just $119. Plus, you can take $50 off an air duct cleaning. We trust Zero Res with our home, and after you take advantage of this amazing special, you will too. Just remember to mention the Colombo special when you call 314-474-2020 or book online at ZeroResSTL.com.
This hour of Jones and Arps is brought to you by Stifel. Contact your Stifel financial advisor at Stifel.com. That's STIFEL.com. Like and subscribe to us on Rumble. News Talk STL.
4:48 on the Tim Jones and Chris Arps show on a cold Friday. So we've got, about another hour, and then we can start that weekend. Tim, before we get to Chris's Corner, we talked a little bit about New Hampshire presidential politics.
Yes.
Some big news today on the political front. Nikki Haley, her campaign is kind of imploding. She's looking for New Hampshire to kind of save her.
Trying to dig up Democrats up there.
Exactly. One of her big donors, Ken Langone, he's a billionaire supporter, says that he may withhold further support if she doesn't perform well in the New Hampshire primary. So that's some bad news for her. And good news for President Trump. Senator Tim Scott will endorse Donald Trump tonight at a rally in New Hampshire. A person familiar with the event said. So Donald Trump, the Trump train, as they say, seems to be continuing on. Nikki Haley may lose her funding if she doesn't do well in New Hampshire. People are saying that about Ron DeSantis as well. So, man, Donald Trump could literally wrap this thing up after New Hampshire.
What do you think about that Tim Scott endorsement? I mean, of course, everybody's trying to pick the winner right now, and the winner's starting to look like it's coming more into focus. But what do you think about Tim Scott doing that personally and for himself? How does that benefit him? And how does it benefit the Trump campaign?
There's talk that he may be on the short list for vice president. There's also talk of Elise Stefanik in New York. The South Dakota governor, Kristi Noem, is on that short list as well. And a wild card that I heard the other day that maybe Carrie Lake may be on that short list. So maybe he's angling to be vice president, or he also doesn't want to be in President Trump's sights for not endorsing him yet. So maybe he just went ahead and got on the bandwagon, as they say. Cruz did the same thing after the Iowa caucus. He endorsed Donald Trump the very next day. All right, let's do it, Joey.
Chris.
And if you don't know, now you know.
And now, Chris's Corner.
My wife Becky is a voracious reader. She's one of the few people that I know that still has a library card. Most people can get the books online, or they download them through Apple. She actually still goes to the library. She also downloads books from the library, and because of that, she is on the St. Louis County Library's email list, and she gets emails occasionally of special events. She got an email today that she forwarded to me that caught my attention, and I want to read a little bit of it. St. Louis County Library Foundation presents RuPaul, the House of Hidden Meetings. That's going to be an event Monday, March 11th at one of our major concert venues here in town in New City. Tickets for this event for individual is $75, Tim. But you can get a very limited VIP tickets for $225. So you may want to get your request in there.
What's the website?
get your tickets in there. This is what the email said. It said, quote, "This isn't the RuPaul you think you know. If we're all born naked and the rest is drag, this is RuPaul stripped bare. Pop culture icon and international drag superstar RuPaul invites you to a spiritual awakening to celebrate the release of the highly anticipated memoir, quote, The House of Hidden Meanings. Allow your mind, body, and soul to be enveloped in RuPaul's lyrically poignant stories on life, love, and finding your voice. During this special event, RuPaul offers fans a manual for living a personal philosophy that testifies to the harnessing of what makes you different and the transformational power of facing yourself fearlessly. Don't miss the opportunity to hear RuPaul's extraordinary story told by RuPaul, and this is what she or he, I don't know what she goes by, says, my memoir tells the story of growing up as a queer black kid in San Diego, navigating complex relationships with my absent father and temperamental mother, to forging an identity in the punk and drag scenes of Atlanta and New York, to finding enduring love with my husband, Georges LeBar, and self-acceptance in sobriety. Now, this event is sponsored not by St. Louis County Library. It's sponsored by the St. Louis County Library Foundation. On their website, Tim, they say, public tax dollars keep our libraries running, but funds raised by the St. Louis County Library Foundation helps your local library to do more, reach more, and be more. From summer lunches for kids to sold-out events with best-selling authors, our programs are building a vibrant public library system, one reader at a time. When you support the St. Louis County Library Foundation, your donation goes to where the funds are most needed. The community, the patrons, the kids, and families will benefit from the resources that you provide. Now, if you go to the St. Louis County Library Foundation, they've got tabs. They are Who Are We?, What We Do, Ways to Give, and News. Now, when you go to the tab, every single tab has a picture of a very young preschool child, or it's a very young first or second grade child. I'm just wondering, are they going to be promoting the RuPaul book in the library? They say that they are for kids. They want to help with literacy with children. You know, you remember Secretary Ashcroft passed or had a rule about the library certification requirement of protecting minors. Libraries are required to submit a copy of their written policies to the state librarian, and the rule also prohibits libraries from buying materials that are child pornography, pornographic for minors, or obscene. I wonder if RuPaul's book could be considered obscene, and I wonder if St. Louis County Library is going to allow minors to check out this book. This is something that I'm going to be keeping my eye on because the St. Louis County Library Foundation, if you look at their website, they are promoting kids all over this thing. And I think this is just a backdoor way to further their agenda among the children by having RuPaul in. They're going to praise him and say he's all that. So this is very disturbing to me, and I hope others that are in St. Louis County or whatever would contact St. Louis County Library or St. Louis Library Foundation and ask them, will this book be available for minors? Because I'm sure it is not G-rated. And that is Chris's Corner.
So
you got a lot to talk. You got a few questions, don't you?
On the other hand, by the way, Chris, I looked up RuPaul's website, RuPaul.com.
Okay.
And RuPaul does refer to himself as he.
Oh, he does.
So
okay.
He's not transgender.
Okay.
He's a he. And on his own website, he talks about he doing various things.
Oh, good for him.
So RuPaul is also, guess how old RuPaul is?
If I had to guess, I'd say mid-50s.
63 years old.
He's that old? I would have thought he's about my age.
So my point is, RuPaul has been around a long time, right? I personally, and maybe people get mad at me for this, I've never been threatened by RuPaul because RuPaul's been around for so long, and up to this point of you telling me about the library thing, I've never felt that RuPaul was a threat to children, right? RuPaul was always considered an adult performer, right? A guy doing drag, which has been around since the beginning of time, almost, right? And so I've always thought of RuPaul as not being part of this new, weird, bizarre trans cult.
And me too.
It's kind of a shame that RuPaul is now being, no pun intended, dragged into this. You know what I mean?
That was a good one. That was a good one.
Right?
Yeah.
I never was really threatened by RuPaul, but this whole thing, who are they catering to is the problem.
Exactly.
If this is for adults and it's 63-year-old RuPaul doing RuPaul's thing like RuPaul's always done, fine. But if they're trying to get the kiddos into this and they're using RuPaul as an excuse, that's where I have the problem.
And that's what I think it is.
Yes.
5:07, we're going to have the speaker's stump speech. And at 5:24, we're going to speak with Dr. Aaron Hedlund, chief economist at the Show Me Institute. You're listening to the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show on 101.9, 94.1 News Talk STL.
Follow Chris Arps on Twitter at Chris_Arps.
The Herzog Foundation is the vision of its founder, Stanley Herzog, and it exists to promote and accelerate the development of quality Christ-centered K-12 education.
Hi, this is Daryl Jones, president of the Herzog Foundation. Our primary goal is to advance Christian education so that families and culture flourish. The legacy of Stan's business career centers around making national transit ecosystems accessible and sustainable. Likewise, the legacy of Stan's philanthropy centers around making the ecosystems of Christian education more accessible and sustainable for families across the nation. Visit HerzogFoundation.com to learn more about our programs, including trainings, scholarships, conferences, news, and our podcast, Making the Leap.
Visit HerzogFoundation.com to learn more and sign up for The Lion, an initiative of the Herzog Foundation that carries articles covering a wide range of issues facing American families and culture. HerzogFoundation.com.
News Talk STL is proud to have Doug Voss as part of our lineup every week. Doug has been a staple on St. Louis radio for many years as one of the leading financial experts in the area. You can hear Doug and Safe Money Radio 3 times every weekend on News Talk STL. And in case you miss anything, you can check it all out at DougVossSafeMoneyRadio.com. What else do our listeners need to know, Doug?
Simply put, I focus on helping pre-retirees and retirees build, preserve, and protect retirement assets, and I've been helping my clients solve their insurance and financial needs for the past 33 years. I also strive to educate my clients on how to prepare for retirement, minimize the impact of market volatility on their assets, and deal with the challenges of increased longevity. Call me today at 844-676-SAFE. That's 844-676-7233.
Doug Voss is a registered representative. Securities offered through DHL Securities, LLLP, member FINRA and SIPC.
KLGY HD3 Clayton, K270BW Bellefontaine, KNBS Bowling Green. This is News Talk STL at 1019, 94.1, and always streaming at newstalkstl.com.
News this hour from townhall.com. I'm Keith Peters reporting. Thousands of pro-life activists attended the March for Life on a frigid day in Washington after speakers urged the impassioned crowd to capitalize on the movement's major victory in the Supreme Court and keep fighting until abortion is eliminated. GOP Congressman Chris Smith of New Jersey says the pro-life movement remains stronger than ever, even with the new legal challenges.
We're greatly encouraged and filled with hope and resolve. Lives are being saved. Yeah, we'll have a setback here and there. Every human rights struggle does, but we are undeterred. We will not give up.
Speakers urged participants to keep fighting until abortion becomes unthinkable. GOP senators are staving off an attack from former President Trump over their border compromise with the White House. Bob Agnew reports.
Trump takes aim at Mitch McConnell and his GOP leadership team. In a message on Truth Social, he writes, "I do not think we should do a border deal at all unless we get everything needed to shut down the invasion of millions and millions of people, many from parts unknown, into our once great but soon to be great again country." It appears the compromise will be rejected by Republicans in the House. Bob Agnew reporting.
The frigid weather has brought questions about how electric vehicles perform during cold weather, and the Ford Motor Company has noticed how consumers are reacting. Correspondent Rita Foley reports on what Ford is doing with an electric pickup.
Ford is cutting production of the F-150 Lightning electric pickup after weaker than expected sales growth among electric vehicles. EV sales are growing, but the pace isn't what the industry expected. Many consumers are turning to hybrid vehicles instead.
The automaker said about 1,400 workers will be impacted by the move, with the Rouge Electric Vehicle Center transitioning to one shift effective April 1st. On Wall Street, the Dow up by 395 points. More on these stories at townhall.com.
Relief Factor, pain relief that's natural, pain relief that works, and pain relief that attacks the source of the pain. That's the experience of tens of thousands of Americans who are taking Relief Factor right now. See their incredible video endorsements at ReliefFactor.com and then order your 3-week quick starter pack for just $19.95. That's less than $1 a day. Find out if it can work for you like it works for me by ordering your 3-week quick starter pack today. ReliefFactor.com, ReliefFactor.com. Be the next success story.
The Dinesh D'Souza podcast, now available on the Salem Podcast Network.
For the left, it's generally you open a door, and then if you notice that no one
someone is pushing back to shut the door, you go right through it, and then you kick in the next door. If we offer no resistance, our past will basically be nothing more than a series of leftist incidents designed to overcome our past.
Subscribe to the Dinesh D'Souza podcast on Apple, Spotify, Google, YouTube, Rumble, or at SalemPodcastNetwork.com.
From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
I'm First Alert 4 Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton. We've got a cold one tonight, a low down to 3 degrees, wind chill minus 10 to minus 15. Dangerous wind chills in the morning. After that, we'll have sunshine and 18 for the afternoon high with a wind chill a little above zero. Not as windy Saturday, but winds about 5 to 15 miles per hour. Sunday, partly to mostly cloudy, a low of 8, cold morning, but 30 in the afternoon as we get a bit of a warm up. Monday, there is a chance for some light freezing rain changing over to rain. Just a heads up on what's coming next early next week. That's the latest from the First Alert 4 Weather Center. I'm Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton.
This hour of News Talk STL brought to you by Chris Cooper and Serenity Wealth Management. Discover little-known strategies that could be the difference between choosing the care you deserve or having someone else decide it for you. Get a free copy of Chris's book at serenityltc.com.
Is your family prepared for the financial burden of losing a loved one?
Are you aware of the cost of a funeral?
Benjamin Schaefer with Senior Memorial could help you qualify for lifetime permanent final expense insurance coverage with no medical exam required.
Just answer a few health questions, and once accepted, your rates never increase.
Do you have diabetes? High blood pressure?
Have you had a heart attack? A stroke?
No problem.
Benjamin Schaefer with Senior Memorial can help protect your legacy.
Call or text 314-866-8886. That's 314-866-8886.
To learn more about permanent lifetime final expense insurance coverage.
Benjamin Schaefer with Senior Memorial could help you qualify for immediate coverage by answering just a few health questions.
Call or text 314-866-8886 or learn more at memorialplans.com. That's memorialplans.com.
Policies underwritten by Senior Life Insurance Company. Not available in all states.
St. Louis's new choice for conservative talk.
I don't know where I would get the truth if it weren't for you.
Live and local.
Welcome to the People's Republic of America stand.
Here comes another roller coaster, another circus.
This is News Talk STL. This hour of Jones and Arps brought to you by Window World. Simply the best for less. 314-993-1800 or visit windowworld.com. Tim Jones and Chris Arps in the afternoon.
The 9 most terrifying words in the English language are, I'm from the government and I'm here to help.
The more you remove voting from Election Day, the more opportunity you're offering for people to commit fraud.
Are you not entertained? Are you not entertained?
I think the Democrats are so short-sighted in this tactic they have now. They just cheat at any cost to win elections.
You're a lying dog-faced pony soldier. You said you were, but now you got to be honest. I'm going to be honest with you.
What are we doing wrong here?
As a former leader in the House, I think you can put your finger on it. It's called leadership. We don't have it.
Tim Jones and Chris Arps.
And tonight I'm also making another promise to protect Americans from government tyranny. As your president, I will never allow the creation of a central bank digital currency. Do you know about that? I didn't know you know so much. I'm very well. New Hampshire, very smart people, very current. You know what they're doing. Such a currency would give a federal government, our federal government, the absolute control over your money. They could take your money. You wouldn't even know it was gone. This would be a dangerous threat to freedom, and I will stop it from coming to America.
I'll protect you. They won't take it. Not on my watch. There you go. There's the Trumpster, President Donald J. Trump in New Hampshire. Welcome back to the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show, Friday, January 19th, 2024 edition, here at 5:06 in the p.m. You're at 101.9, 94.1, newstalkstl.com. Chris, how you doing today?
I'm doing good. You know, that's one thing that I agree with the president about the digital currency. That's why China wants to form one, because it allows the government basically to track your spending and track you. And it's very, very dangerous. And I've got all kind of concerns with digital currency. I mean, it's a ripe vehicle for money laundering more than anything.
Yeah, and we haven't talked about that a whole lot on this program, and we probably should maybe get into that a little bit more in the weeks and months ahead.
Or with Hedlund.
Yeah, with Dr. Hedlund at 5:25. Yep, we can absolutely ask him about that. So let's, I'm going to make a little note of that. Central bank digital currency. Yeah, Chris, it's another way for the government to control you, your habits, your spending. Communist China already has a version of this because that way they can build your, quote, social credit score around you. And literally, folks, I don't know if our listeners realize this. In China, people have a social credit score, and that basically determines in the minds of the Communist Party, which run everything in Communist China, whether you're considered a good citizen or not, whether you're going to be elevated up the social scale or pushed downwards.
I mean, your social credit score depends on where you live, depends on what type of job you get, what type of things that you can purchase. I mean, the socialist Marxists here would love something like that.
Yes, they would. And the Republicans, the conservatives, the libertarians definitely push back hard against that. Speaking of famous libertarians, we know that Javier Milei, who is the new president of Argentina, first elected libertarian around the planet as president of a country. Mike Ferguson, our resident, Mike calls himself a conservatarian these days, but he's got strong libertarian leanings, like many of us here. Javier Milei definitely opposed that. I'm going to do my stump speech today, Chris, based on a speech that I heard Javier Milei give, and he's got a famous quote in that speech that needs to be on a T-shirt. So I'll talk about that in a few moments.
I heard he was a star at Davos when he gave that speech.
Yes.
He gave a very libertarian, free market speech.
Yes. This is a, let me see I think this may be a different one that I found. Yeah, this is one, Chris, from last year.
Oh, okay.
With one of his famous quotes. But yes, maybe I'll do that next week.
Yeah, he did one at Davos.
And they set their hair on fire there, right? They completely freaked out. And I saw that somebody else was speaking recently at Davos. I think Jamie Dimon. Jamie Dimon upset all the eggheads at Davos, and basically because Jamie Dimon, who has said that he's generally been a Democrat his life, but recently is realizing that the Democratic Party is leaving him, like so many Democrats, and has been praising Donald Trump this week. Jamie Dimon said positive things about Donald Trump's economic record at Davos, and they completely flipped out about that.
Yeah, the Biden administration is keeping arm's length away from Davos this year. They didn't send any major representatives, but they did send the second gentleman to Switzerland to make a speech. He's representing the United States this year, Doug Emhoff.
Speaking of the second gentleman, Chris, where is the vice president these days? I know you watch the daily logs and updates about Joe Biden's schedule. What's Kamala been up to? Do you have any idea?
She has not had anything. She's been doing a lot of speeches, campaign-like speeches, especially around Martin Luther King. They've had her down in South Carolina and doing the black thing. But when it comes to policy and meeting with the president, she's been AWOL. For the last week, President Biden has had one event a day. Either at 10:30 or 11, he's having his presidential daily briefing, and that's it.
Wow.
That's it.
So they haven't really ratcheted up the campaign, have they?
They haven't.
Yeah, it's really amazing. Folks, it's 5:11 in the p.m. As you heard from our weather partners there over at KMOV4, First Alert 4, going to get rather chilly tonight. I don't think there's any snow, nothing like that in the forecast, but just batten down the hatches for another couple days. Next week looks a lot more warmer and a lot wetter. So we can, the salt on the streets is like 3 inches thick right now. Yeah. So we need to wash all of that away.
This is what I hate, though, when there's like 1 inch of snow or less, and the city, municipality, wherever you live, when they like shovel it, and it's like, you're just making noise. When they did that this morning, it's like, there's not enough snow to have the snow plows out, man. You're waking me up.
There were some schools called off today.
City School District was closed.
Rockwood was not. I guess we're hardier out there in the western lands on the frontier, out there in the frontier of Eureka. And when I heard that, I'm like, What? The schools were called off. Why?
Yeah.
The sun is shining. It's 15 degrees. It's January. I mean, what more do you want,
And I think, Tim, not to downgrade your profession, but I think these school boards and these school districts are just afraid of some parent suing them because their child got frostbite on their pinky finger. And why not just call school off and not risk it?
Damn the
I think
lawyers.
it's that more than anything.
It could be. And, Chris, we do have a generation now that over mothers and over fathers their children as well. Yeah. Producer Joey V, How you been doing, my friend? What's going on?
Doing wonderful. I actually watched John Carpenter's Assault on Precinct 13 last night.
Oh, that's an old movie.
Awesome film. And that's what made me inspired to put you guys fighting to the death in a prison here.
Yeah, did you see where we are?
No, I did not see. Let me check it out.
I was trying to figure out. So, Joey, my guesses were, I did not guess that. My guess was that Chris and I were either on the set of Thriller, Michael Jackson's famous, because it looks like there's a bunch of zombies in the background. I guess they're prisoners, but they look kind of like zombies. Or I thought maybe we were on the set of The Walking Dead.
That's what it ended up transitioning to, because if you notice, you've got Nick Schroer's baseball bat in your hand wrapped in barbed wire right there. Ready to save us.
You know, I'd appreciate it, though, if you do a scene where I'm, like, in prison or something. Can you make me look a little harder than you have there? Can I have a scowl or, grimace?
You look like bobbleheads.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Or have me have, like, a Tupac rag on my head, something. Just make me look hard, man, like a gangster.
Look at that tattoo I've got on my forearm.
That's what I was going to say. I used up all the ink on Tim's tattoo.
It's kind of badass.
Well, you couldn't see it on me.
Well, Chris, you do have a pretty cool bat, though. You do have the Nick Schroer barbed
There
wire
you
bat.
go.
Yeah,
There you go.
Yeah, you really do. It looks fantastic.
That's my bat. I call her Keisha.
Yeah.
Oh, my
Keisha.
goodness.
I love it. So, Joey, I wanted to ask you today, we ran out of time, and we're going to get to the stump speech in a minute, and then we're going to have Dr. Aaron Hedlund at 5:25 to talk about all this economic data and central bank currencies and all that and so on and so forth. Joey, in the last week, we've had the Golden Globe Awards and we've had the Emmys, which I think were delayed and didn't occur last year or something. So I'm sure you either watched them or read about them. What were your big takeaways from the first award shows of the year? What movies that Chris and I have not seen do we need to really see that are now being highly accoladed?
My favorite movie of the year is Martin Scorsese's Killers of the Flower Moon.
Okay.
And that takes
I've heard
place,
of that.
I wanted to see that.
I've heard of that.
Takes place 100 years ago. Missouri kicked out all the Native Americans, sent them to Oklahoma, and accidentally there were a bunch of oil underneath that land.
Oh.
So the Native Americans became the richest people in America, and the white people in that community did not like it. So it's like a crime drama where Indians are getting knocked off, and it is incredible. It's on Apple TV Plus right now. It's 3.5 hours, so you may need to have your own little intermission where you have a lunch, but it is incredible, especially if you love Scorsese, Goodfellas, all that stuff, the gangster films.
It was one of the movies that was on the cruise ship Beck and I took. We didn't get a chance to see it. One thing, Joe, I don't follow popular culture too much, but I did see that Elton John has reached an elite group of performers.
Yeah, you get the EGOT, the Emmy, Grammy, Oscar, Tony, and he just got it for his live concert that he did. It was a streaming concert for his farewell tour. And I've always said, I think everyone says this, music is the way to get the EGOT. If you can make music, that can go into your movie, you can go your TV show, your musical.
Yeah, that's right.
So if you look like, was it Rita Moreno from West Side Story, Mel Brooks, he's got a great musical, Spam-A-Lot.
Does he have an EGOT?
Yeah, he's got it.
Really?
And then the Frozen people who made the songs for Frozen, I mean, those are some of the biggest EGOTs out there for music.
One of the funniest movies that Sir Elton John did recently.
There you go. Give him his propers.
The Sir Elton John was in he was in the second Kingsman movie. The Kingsman, the Golden Circle. He had a part in that. He was hilarious in that movie. He just made me laugh throughout the whole thing. And Joey, I have to say, one of my favorite Martin Scorsese movies of all time. Anytime it comes on and I get stuck watching it, my wife just thinks it's too tedious and too long. But I love movies like this that draw you in and hold you for hours. The Gangs of New York.
Yeah.
Yes,
Gangs of New York.
Leo, I think that was his first time hanging out, and now he's like Scorsese's golden child.
With one of my favorite character actors of all time. Daniel Day-Lewis. I'm a huge Daniel Day-Lewis fan. Last of the Mohicans, Age of Innocence, Gangs of New York.
I drink your milkshake.
Yes, he is.
There will be blood.
He is so good. So yeah, Gangs of New York. That's a great flick too.
I love that one as well.
Is he Lincoln? Did he do Lincoln?
Lincoln.
Yes. Okay.
Lincoln. He becomes his characters, like for real.
They say he's an excellent actor.
That Lincoln movie, Chris, you've seen that.
I've seen it. Yeah.
For us, it has everything. It has politics. It has history. It has incredible momentous events. The Speaker of the House was what's his name? The Speaker of the House in Lincoln. He's a very famous actor. I can't think of it. He was the police officer. He was the FBI guy in the Harrison Ford movie. I want you to search every outhouse, bunkhouse, You guys
Joy,
know it.
you're failing us. Come on, you're supposed to know all this stuff.
got it?
I'm on my Google Kung Fu. We've got Schuler Colfax right now, right? Is that a Speaker of the House?
Yes.
So now I got to look up the actor. You give me 2 seconds. I'll be right back.
Okay. He was also, Joey, he was the FBI agent in the Harrison Ford movie where he was...
Tommy Lee Jones?
Tommy Lee Jones.
There we go.
Tommy Lee Jones.
Great actor.
It wasn't me. It was the one-armed man.
Well done, Joey. Tommy Lee Jones played
You
Speaker.
should have said Men in Black. Then we would have known.
Oh, well, Men in Black. Of course. Yeah. All right. Okay. That was our movie interlude. Thank you, producer Joey V. How about we now get to a little liberty and freedom courtesy of our friends south of the border? Yes, they do love that down there as well. They got a new president leading the way. His name is Javier Milei, and he is the subject of today's Speaker's Dumb Speech.
Listen to me, listen to me.
I'm very consistent. I'm a very stable genius.
It's time for the Speaker's Stump Speech, sponsored by Hanson's Tree Service at hansonstree.com.
Let me see if I can get through most of this speech here. This was a speech back in November of 2023, and it's published at a bunch of different places. Real Clear Politics is where I found it, and it includes one of the famous lines that Argentinian President Javier Milei said back before he got elected, and it was one of the things that propelled him forward. Javier Milei, if that's not a household name to you, it will become one. He's kind of the wild-haired, wild-eyed, libertarian elected president of Argentina. That's a country that suffered under the failed yoke of socialism for decades. Their currency was in the toilet. Argentina used to be one of the wealthiest nations in South America, but socialism bordering on communism absolutely wrecked them. Javier Milei, let me tell you a little bit about what he stands for. I'm reading from one of his speeches he gave right before he was elected. We aren't above the ones we represent. In financial terms, the derivative is never worth more than the underlying asset. The derivative exists because the underlying asset exists. We exist as representatives of the people because the people exist. It's madness. It's delusional to think that a representative of the people is above the people he represents themselves. It's a delusion in which the political caste exists. Yeah. Editor's note here by me. Nancy Pelosi, she definitely believes that, and so does some of the other authoritarian Democrats. Javier continues, in our government, the politicians will have the same privileges that the common citizen has. Wow. They will have to internalize their externalities. They'll have to internalize their externalities if they screw up. Not only will honest Argentinians suffer the consequences, the politicians are going to suffer even more. They will have to live like honest Argentines live. Their privileges are over. The party is over. This is something only an outsider can achieve. Only a guy who comes from the outside can do it. And not just any kind of outsider, because history is full of outsiders who get into pre-existing structures. We are outsiders because we are outsiders without a pre-existing structure. We're built for this. What for? To kick their asses out.
There you go.
The party's over. Privileges for politicians are over. It's over. A different Argentina is impossible with the same old people. Enough with this. The party's over. That's why they want to smear me. That's why they send my way the 200 loser economists. That's why they send my way the pseudo-intellectuals. That's why they send my way the slum priests. That's why they attack me through the media. That's why the prebendary, I'll have to look that word up. The prebendary businessmen attack me. The party's over. Why does the attack intensify? Because they believe this wasn't going to happen. They realize now the population is shouting freedom. They discovered they do not want to be lambs. They discovered they felt better being lions. And here's the money line here. Javier says, as I said in my very first speech, I did not come here to guide lambs. I came here to awaken lions. And they're waking up. They will devour the thieving politicians. They'll devour the prebendary businessmen. They'll devour the unionists who betray their people. They'll devour those in the media who are functional to all those thieves to keep the party going. They'll do away with the econo-frauds, the polygogs, and all that garbage. They advocate for the religion of the state because that's what they steal from. Argentina is waking up. Is there light? Yes, there is light because people are waking up. They discovered slavery is not a good deal, and there is a better life, which is to live as free men. This is why you are seeing what you're seeing. This works just like an exponential function. At some point, there was a turning point, and now they cannot stop it. They cannot stop it. When the exponential function begins to grow, you cannot stop it. And that's Javier Milei, the new president of Argentina, and that is the speaker's stump speech.
You know, Wall Street Journal opinion article kind of gave a synopsis of his speech in Davos. The title, Tim, is Argentina's Milei gives the Davos crowd a spine transplant.
I bet he did.
So, he lit it on fire.
You know what's great, Chris? You can tell he's extremely intellectual, but he also speaks he's very Trumpian, right, in his language of understanding what people want and need. And I love that line, Chris. I didn't come here to lead lambs. I came to awaken lions, right? And what he means by that, because I did a little research on that, he means awakening the passion that every person has inside them, whether they know it or not, that, men and women, we yearn to be free. And sometimes we need a little spark, a little kick in the butt, but that's when people are at their best, when they're free to pursue their dreams and their pursuits.
I just hope the Argentine people give him enough time and are patient because, Argentina has been ran into the ground, and it's going to take a lot of work to turn it around. I just hope that they don't get impatient and throw him out.
Yeah, he'll need some time. That is for sure. All right, it's time for us. Take a quick break. When we come back, Dr. Aaron Hedlund, chief economist at the Show Me Institute, is standing by to talk to us about the state of the American consumer as we begin here in the first month of 2024. The continued struggles of the Chinese economy. Yeah, it's not all happy times in communist China, despite what their propaganda mouthpieces might say, and the dangers of a central bank currency. We'll talk to Dr. Hedlund about that and a ton of more items when we come back on the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show, 101.9, 94.1. This is News Talk STL.
Like us on Facebook at News Talk STL.
I don't know how to put this, but I'm kind of a big deal. People know me.
From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
I'm First Alert 4 Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton. We've got a cold one tonight, a low down to 3 degrees, wind chill minus 10 to minus 15. Dangerous wind chills in the morning. After that, we'll have sunshine and 18 for the afternoon high with a wind chill a little above zero. Not as windy Saturday, but winds about 5 to 15 miles per hour. Sunday, partly to mostly cloudy, a low of 8, cold morning, but 30 in the afternoon as we get a bit of a warm up. Monday, there is a chance for some light freezing rain changing over to rain. Just a heads up on what's coming next early next week. That's the latest from the First Alert 4 Weather Center. I'm Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton.
This is News Talk STL. News, analysis, and opinion from the voices you know and trust. News Talk STL at 101.9, 94.1, and newstalkstl.com.
Cold weather is rough on a lot of things. It's rough on you as well, as you all know. I'm not telling you anything you don't know. It's rough on your joints, rough on your back and neck, right? We're wearing a lot more clothes. We encumber ourselves a lot more. We're holding ourselves in different positions. We're not getting as much exercise. We're probably sitting a lot more during the wintertime. If you've got aches and pains that you want to go away, and if you need holistic health care, I want you to check out our good friends at Comprehensive Chiropractic and Sports Performance. I've been going there for almost 2 decades. I know all the docs. They're wonderful people. My lovely wife, Suzanne, was just there, I think she said this morning. We've seen just about all the docs there. They've got a big, wide array of docs. They got men, women. They've got, folks who have been in the industry for a long time, some who are just beginning their careers, which is wonderful because they can all share different practice points. And for those of you who experience really debilitating injuries or maladies known as peripheral neuropathy, Comprehensive's got the solution for you as well through their companion site of Comprehensive Integrative Healthcare run by Dr. Kim Patton. We've had her on the air with us many times. Peripheral neuropathy is debilitating, folks. A lot of folks who are diabetic experience this. Numbness, tingling, burning pain, stabbing pain. It's horrific, but Dr. Kim Patton has brought so many people back into the light. She can help you and your family members as well with the Restore Neuropathy program. 95% success rate, improving the symptoms of neuropathy, 60 to 100%. Truly, truly amazing. Comprehensive Integrative Healthcare, 636-495-1930. That's 636-495-1930. 24/7, always available at CIH.health. That's CIH.health. And for comprehensive chiropractic, see chiropractic.com. See chiropractic.com. Man, I'm telling you, this is comprehensive health solutions for all of your healthcare needs.
Tony Colombo here, reminding you to visit my friends at Bluff City Outdoors in Alton before your next trip into the great outdoors. For decades, Bluff City Outdoors has covered all the needs for area fishermen, and they'll always have all the best bait, tackle, and gear for your next trip on the water. And now they cover all your bow hunting needs, including their state-of-the-art indoor archery range and techno hunt system, open every day for you to come shoot, or you can join a league. Follow Bluff City Outdoors on Facebook and learn more at bluffcityoutdoors.com.
News Talk STL.
First thing in the morning and pretty much all day.
Live and local. 101.9 and 94.1. News Talk STL. Made in St. Louis for St. Louis. It's News Talk STL.
Why is there such a disconnect between what the administration wants people to feel and believe about the strength of the economy and how so many people ultimately are feeling personally, day in and day out?
So a couple of things. There's a lot to unpack, and I appreciate the question and the opportunity here. So there's some data that we saw coming out of 2023 that actually showed, you hear the word consumer confidence, where you saw consumer confidence and it went up in a really in a big way, and kind of that we hadn't seen in a long time in the month of December. That's important.
Did you expect that increase?
Well, here's the thing. The economy is actually very strong right now. I know the feelonomics. I think that's how you say it. I get that. But unemployment is at a historic low.
Darn it, Chris, the economy's great. Why don't you just accept it? Because Corinne Jean-Pierre says so.
Yeah, and we said this time and time again. They sound tone deaf when there's so many people that are dealing with high gas prices, high food prices, all of that. For them to come along and say that everything is happy again, is joyful again, is just out of touch with people. And I think that's part of the reason why KGB has zero credibility. And I think that's why when they do the daily press conferences, she's got a sidekick with her because they know she's not very good at her job.
That's such a great point indeed. We got a guy who's got lots of credibility when it comes to the economy and the financial situation of our country. Let's bring him in next.
What is your financial situation?
Well, all of our holdings are tied up in the railroads.
Yeah, Reading Railroad, Beano Railroad, Pennsylvania Railroad.
I won second prize in a beauty contest. That's $50 right there.
Are you guys just saying Monopoly stuff?
Head games indeed with Dr. Aaron Hedlund, chief economist at the Show Me Institute. Dr. Hedlund, is the problem with our dislike of Bidenomics simply that we just don't understand how great it's working?
Yeah, not quite. When politicians are in a position when they're telling the public that the public's wrong, that usually means the reverse is true. And really, the story is quite simple. People's paychecks are smaller. They can't buy as much as they used to be able to buy. When you adjust for inflation, purchasing power fell by $4,000 from 1999. Sorry, from 2019 to 2022. And if you look at 2023, it's pretty flat. So people are feeling poorer, and that's why they're not happy.
Dr. Hedlund, the Federal Reserve ran an operating loss of $143 billion last year, its largest ever. Explain what happened and explain to people how the Federal Reserve is a private bank and how it operates within our system.
Yeah, well, I could give a whole lecture on the Fed. That's a pretty complicated system there. But essentially, the reason they ran losses is because they were raising interest rates. So that increased the cost to them because they pay interest on reserves. But then the assets they own were kind of stuck at lower rates. So that sort of thing is not going to affect their ability to do what they need to do. Certainly, they don't want to be not great optics to be running losses like that. And the Fed does have some mismanagement issues it has to own up to, namely its delay in addressing inflation. But at least they're doing something now, unlike the rest of the government, which is still spending way too much.
Mm-hmm. Dr. Hedlund, I want to drill down a little bit more into a point that you just made that I heard also previously referenced. Great minds think alike, right? By the famed economist TV broadcaster and former member of the Trump administration, Larry Kudlow. He said, look, it all boils down to this. What the Biden administration continues to ignore is the correlation between rising prices and lower wages, right? You can celebrate this employment all you want, but if people are having to work 3 and 4 and 5 jobs to make the same ends meet, to fill the grocery cart up with the same amount of goods, then you don't really understand why people are feeling the pain they are, right, Dr. Hedlund?
Exactly. The reality is most people don't get their economic opinions by opening up a newspaper. First, they look at their own situation. And the reality is families know that they're pinched. They see the bills going up. And then they talk to their friends, and their friends are saying the same thing. And then, yes, they'll hear whatever's in the newspaper. And the message is very clear. People's paychecks are smaller. And it was funny that she quoted the consumer sentiment, which should jump up just a titch. The problem is it's still lower than any point during the previous administration. So it's sort of like giving out a participation trophy.
Dr. Hedlund, I don't want to belabor the point because I'm curious myself, really. What is the purpose of the Federal Reserve? Why was it established in 1913, and why is it a private bank?
Yeah, so the Federal Reserve, they really have a dual mandate, and their mandate is price stability and then also maximum employment. And what we've seen in the past when they deviate, especially from the price stability point, you get major problems. We had massive inflation in the 70s and early 80s, and then, of course, more recently. And so that's, if you rewind time, 100 plus years ago, pre-Federal Reserve, we did not have that kind of central bank doing things. And you did get periods where prices would go up. You'd have periods when prices would go down. And that actually did cause some political turmoil because the challenge with declining prices, which sounds great, is that you have people who take out debt, and then if they're paying back the debt with lower prices and lower incomes, that can be an issue. So Federal Reserve definitely far from perfect, but its main goal is just price stability.
So let's talk about that a little bit more and what the Fed has been up to over the last few years, and that's trying to tame the scourge of inflation. Dr. Hedlund, after celebrating historically high inflation going down, ticking slowly, painfully slowly down into the 3% level. Inflation ticked back up a little bit in December, and amongst the core items, it's still historically high and off the charts. As Chris famously says, well, if you take out energy and fuel price, if you take out food and energy prices, everything's great. I mean, those two things, which the majority of Americans have to use, buy, purchase every single day, are still at all-time highs. So, Dr. Hedlund, inflation, it's not under control, is it? It's not anywhere. I know 2 and 3 sound close together, but in the inflationary world, it's almost like there's a chasm, right, between where inflation continues to stubbornly be and where the Fed would like it to be.
Well, first of all, it's important to distinguish between inflation and the price level. Inflation is about price level changes. So the fact that inflation has been coming down, that doesn't mean prices have been coming down. Right. It means that they're going up more slowly than they were. And the reality is that it's still going up over 3%, and you did see an uptick, which just raises the same issue that comes up in many other contexts. You don't declare mission accomplished until the mission is actually accomplished. And so inflation is not at 2% right now. And until it gets to 2%, the idea that the Fed would cut rates doesn't make any sense. And it's also important to remind everybody why inflation emerged to begin with here. And it largely emerged because of completely excess blowout spending that happened in 2021. We had sub 2% inflation going into the year, and it's just like clockwork. You can look at the data that the pivot point when inflation started to go up was right after that first major stimulus bill in 2021, and that's when it peaked at 9%. So anytime people talk about, the government can spend money and there's no consequence, this is the consequence.
Dr. Hedlund, the Biden administration has a new proposal aimed at restricting overdraft fees. Some banks charge $35 every time you write a hot check. Who writes hot checks nowadays? Writes checks anyway this year. They're saying that overdraft fee amounts to a 16,000% annual percentage rate. Is this a good idea?
To me, the administration is spending way too much time trying to figure out what additional things to regulate. Right? Instead of controlling the economy more, let's figure out how we can unleash market forces. The more competition and market forces there are, that'll make sure those things stay in check. Right? The reality is banks have to make money, and we're not going to have a system where there's zero fees because banks do provide services, and they also cost money to provide those services. But they have this messaging where they believe the economy is just increasingly monopolized. The biggest monopoly is the government, and they're encouraging more monopoly through all this Green New Deal style activity as well.
Mm-hmm. Speaking to Dr. Aaron Hedlund, chief economist at the Show Me Institute, showmeinstitute.org. You can find him at Aaron_Hedlund. Dr. Hedlund, speaking about bad ideas that the government concocts, which seems to be every idea they concoct these days. Chris and I were talking earlier about these discussions around the creation of a central bank digital currency. Would you explain to our listeners what that concept is, where it came from in the first place? And I'm just going to hazard a guess that you would probably think it's a bad idea. Explain that as well.
Well, let's do that in reverse order. I don't think it's a good idea at all because it'd be a massive invasion of privacy. And it's essentially, I mean, there's kind of different versions of it, but do we want people to directly be doing exchanges with the Federal Reserve? Essentially, the Federal Reserve being like a consumer bank for the public. And if you just phrase it like that, there's some people who go, oh, well, yeah, why not? Well, the problem is, do we want the government to be monitoring every transaction? But at a time when there's already a push for the IRS to be looking at more transactions, it doesn't make any sense for me to move away from privacy. And the other thing is it doesn't solve any problems. So it's one of those issues. It's like a solution in search of a problem that all it really does is create more problems.
Dr. Hedlund, we're also hearing that some of the big banks are looking to sue the Federal Reserve, I think because there's a rule for some of these banks to have higher reserves in their banks. Am I correct on that?
So the Fed does, there are rules that banks essentially have enough capital in the event of a crisis. And some of this was kind of the post-financial crisis of 2009 when some banks were undercapitalized and we had major problems there. I don't know the nature of what the lawsuit is. I mean, the thing with capital reserves like that it does limit the ability of the bank to lend that out, but it also means that when there's a crisis, they're less likely to have problems. So I don't know the legal issue, but finding that right balance for exactly what the capital requirements should be is a bit of a tricky issue.
Dr. Hedlund, you mentioned the green economy earlier, the crazy Green New Deal and all that such and so forth. We saw an article was brought to our attention. I don't know if you've heard about this regarding China. And I might want to talk a little about the broader context of China and the fact that their economy is not as hunky-dory and rosy as has been in recent years. And, their propaganda machine tries to continue to prop it up. But according to the Wall Street Journal this week, China is going all in on the green industry to jolt their ailing economy. Now, I guess my question is this because they're going to just try to sell us more of their junk?
Well, what I want to know is, will there ever be a time when China gets their own Javier Milei? Because that's what they need. They need some more libertarianism and less command and control. And actually, if you look at the Chinese economy over the past several decades, what really set the economy off on a growth path was when it moved away from hardcore communism started in the late 1970s. It's certainly not a capitalist paradise or anything close to it, but the more they moved away from kind of strict Marxism, that actually allowed things to flourish. Unfortunately, the current premier seems to believe a little bit more in command and control, and you see real estate bubble bursting, and you see ghost towns, and it's no surprise to me that the economy is slowing down. At the end of the day, government cannot create long-term growth.
Dr. Hedlund, one of your areas of expertise is the real estate market, and we've talked to you over the months about the looming commercial real estate bubble that is debt that is going to be coming due soon. I saw an article here that says, quote, "The bill is coming due on a record amount of commercial real estate debt." How concerned are you about that?
I'm quite concerned, especially when it comes to office space. It's kind of like this dark cloud that's rolling in. So for your listeners, people are accustomed to their mortgage on their house. And the way mortgages on their house work is you make the payment, and at the end of the 30 years, the mortgage is all paid off. But with office buildings and commercial loans in general, that's not how it works. You might take out a 5 or 10-year loan, but then you're making payments for 5 or 10 years, and at the end, the whole loan is not already paid off. There's actually a massive balloon payment you have to pay all at once. And what typically happens is the owner of the building will just take out a new loan to pay off the rest of the old loan, and they'll keep on going. Well, right now, with those loans that are coming due, any new loan they take out is much more expensive. Interest rates are much higher, and the occupancy rates are much lower. So they may not be able to roll it over. So we could have a commercial real estate crisis that could hit, which would also affect banks. I don't know for sure that's going to happen, but in places like New York and San Francisco, I mean, there's definitely problems.
We will continue to monitor that alongside Dr. Aaron Hedlund, our guest this afternoon, chief economist at the Show Me Institute, showmeinstitute.org. Aaron, have a great weekend. Thanks so much for joining us as always. We'll look forward to speaking with you again in the near future.
Thank you, sir.
Looking forward to it.
Yeah, there he is at Aaron_Hedlund on Twitter. Well, just like that, it's 5:43, almost 5:44 in the PM. Chris, we're approaching the final segment of the week.
We are.
We'll have to make sure that we wrap up with anything we may have missed. Lots of headlines as we head into what's, folks, is going to be a very busy weekend ahead of the New Hampshire primary. There's some new polling that just came out from the Boston Globe as to that primary. Chris always has a couple of very interesting tidbits as well. And we will, of course, prepare you for Larry Connors USA, following us as he does every day at 6:05. All of that straight ahead on one more jam-packed segment of the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show, 101.9, 94.1 News Talk STL.
Like and subscribe to us on Rumble. News Talk STL.
Just smile and wave, boys. Smile and wave.
From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
I'm First Alert 4 Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton. We've got a cold one tonight, a low down to 3 degrees, wind chill -10 to -15. Dangerous wind chills in the morning. After that, we'll have sunshine and 18 for the afternoon high with a wind chill a little above zero. Not as windy Saturday, but winds about 5 to 15 miles per hour. Sunday, partly to mostly cloudy, a low of 8, cold morning, but 30 in the afternoon as we get a bit of a warm up. Monday, there is a chance for some light freezing rain changing over to rain. Just a heads up on what's coming next early next week. That's the latest from the First Alert 4 Weather Center. I'm Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton.
On the next, Larry Connors USA.
Who's going to win the New Hampshire primary Tuesday? And could Donald Jr. be Donald Trump's pick for vice president?
Larry Connors USA. Now, weeknights 6 until 8 on News Talk STL.
You know, everybody's wanting to warm up, right, throughout this next very chilly weekend. I got a great place for you to go. Be warm and toasty and very satisfied inside. That would be Espino's Mexican Grill, Espino'sMexicanBarGrill.com, or you can check them out on Facebook like I am right now, looking at their fantastically jammed menu. Oh, man, my mouth is watering looking at the enchiladas, the specials. They've got the chimichangas. They got the delicious fajitas. Some really interesting specials like they've got roasted duck. They've got a bunch of different salmon specials, the coconut shrimp. Man, they got it all at Espino's. Great ambiance, located right in the heart of Chesterfield Valley, 17409 Chesterfield Airport Road, right? Just right off the highway there. Beautiful location. Great setting, really cool ambiance. Everything from the minute you sit down to the delicious homemade in-house salsa, the con queso, the bar menu, the bar drinks. They got a huge selection of tequilas, cold beer. Really cool live local music as well. My goodness, why would you go anywhere else this weekend to warm up with ooey gooey goodness inside? I want you to check out Espino's Mexican Grill. Espino'sMexicanBarGrill.com, or like I just did just now, simply go to Facebook, type in Espino's Mexican Bar and Grill. It'll come right up. You can see everything they've got to offer this weekend at Espino's Mexican Bar and Grill.
Are you a natural leader driven by the desire to make a lasting impact? Is your deepest calling to be an elected official making a real difference? Now, picture yourself with the power to shape the future in St. Louis City. St. Louis needs your leadership now more than ever. The urgency is real. The Republican Party, City of St. Louis can help you file, be your guiding force, and support you during the campaign. Contact stlouisrepublicans.com and step into your destiny.
Paid for by St. Louis City Republican PAC. Curtis Farber, Treasurer.
Congratulations to everyone at Connor Roofing. We chose the Connor Roofing team for our National Best of the Best Award for customer satisfaction without telling anyone at Connor Roofing, based on over 30 years of fantastic customer reviews. Rob and Kathy Connor and their team deliver very high quality roofing, siding, gutters, storm damage restoration at a fair price with integrity. Connor Roofing has had an A+ rating from the Better Business Bureau for years. Count on Connor. For an estimate, please visit ConnorRoofing.com. That's CONNER roofing.com.
Mike Ferguson in the morning.
There was an absolutely brutal attack on Andy Ngo. He is the conservative investigative journalist. Some of those people were sued, and there was a court ruling that let those people off the hook. Did you notice that that wasn't in the big national headlines? Somebody being attacked because they were observing criminal activity.
Weekday mornings, 5:30 to 9 on News Talk STL. This hour of Jones and Arps brought to you by Window World. Simply the best for less. 314-993-1800 or visit windowworld.com. Made in St. Louis for St. Louis. It's News Talk STL.
And welcome back to the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show. It is 5:49, and Tim got a couple of polls here. We can close out the show with the latest Boston Globe, as you mentioned, Suffolk University NBC 10 poll. Boy, that's a lot there. Tracking poll. This is in New Hampshire. President Trump is at 51.8%, 52. Haley at 35.4%, and Ron DeSantis at 6.4%. Undecided 4.2. So we've heard a lot of talk that in some of the outlying polls, I even saw a poll yesterday that Nikki Haley was actually tied with President Trump. But all the other polls had her at least 10 or 12 points down. This one has her at 35%. Do you make up 16% in 3 days?
I think a lot of this, Chris, was media-driven. I'm just going to be honest. I think a lot of it was wishful thinking by the no Trumper, never Trumper, hate Trumper crowd and the media, CNN, MSNBC. This potential. I think they were maybe sampling some of this idea that you could have crossover votes, you know. But yeah, and were you reading from the Boston Globe poll? Was that the one you were citing?
I think it was. Yeah, the Boston Globe.
Yeah, Chris, I'm looking at the numbers now. Yeah, the same thing you just said. 52 to 35, right? I mean, that's a huge spread. And look, Chris, what happened in Iowa. The Trump voters seem to all come out, and they all seem to come home. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, nobody, the media was like, well, at the very end, right? Last week, the media was like, well, he's going to win, but, you know, unless he gets over 50%, then it doesn't really matter. And then he got 51%.
Exactly.
So it's kind of like every bar they set for him, he seems to leap over. Now, look, folks, is he going to be the best general election candidate? We don't know. We're not sure. I haven't seen any general election candidate in the Republicans, though. They're all doing about the same. Like, Trump's not doing a ton better, and he's definitely not doing worse. They're all kind of in the same kind of metric where they're all beating Joe Biden. In the latest Harvard-Harris poll, Chris, that was released today, Trump is in the – and this is a national snapshot, which we don't do the national popularity contest. But when you break it down the states, it matches this. Trump 53, Biden 47. We've never seen numbers like this between these two.
And I had a poll. I think this was from last week. It was still in my stack of stuff. CBS News poll, YouGov poll has Nikki Haley at 53%, Joe Biden 45. So what's that? 8 points lead. But I don't think she's going to be I don't think she's going to be the nominee. You know, in that Boston Globe poll, I'd be very curious to know of her 35% support, how much of that are so-called independents and Democrats. I think if you take them out of the equation, I think she'd probably be 22%, somewhere around in there.
Yeah, and this is the first this is the first contest where we have the least amount of people on the ballot, right? We don't many are presuming that the Ramaswamy support goes to Trump, and he's now stumping for Donald Trump.
Mm-hmm.
How about that Tim Scott endorsement today? Does that help move more? So you got Ramaswamy support, you got Tim Scott support, Ted Cruz's support. So do Republicans in New Hampshire go, man, I don't know, this thing looks like it's the cake's about baked, and does that give Donald Trump a surge, or do the anti-Trump forces do they all rally to Nikki Haley?
Yeah.
You know, because Ron DeSantis is almost a non-factor in New Hampshire.
And it was very interesting. I don't know if you heard this yesterday or saw the big story. President Trump is telling candidates that not to hire Jeff Rowe, Axiom Strategies, our own Missouri poll here, consultant, said that if you want my support, do not hire Axiom Strategies, Jeff Rowe.
Mm-hmm. I think Jeff Rowe will be all right.
Yeah.
I think he'll even survive the onslaught of Donald Trump. Maybe he'll have a little bit of a short-term pain, but these are two big dogs going up against each other.
I mean, and I understand, President Trump takes a lot of things personal. He is very big on loyalty, but Jeff Rowe, Axiom Strategies, they win races, and we know how tight the House is right now. We've got a chance to win the Senate. I kind of want Jeff Rowe on our side. I want him advising these candidates, running these campaigns, so that we can retain the House and possibly take over the Senate.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if President Trump is letting his feelings getting in the way of the big picture. Is we want to win, and this guy has a proven track record of winning. So let's put our differences aside, and let's look at the big picture and take over the Congress and take over the White House and as Donald Trump says, make America great again.
Yeah, unless Donald Trump's going to launch a consulting company and help all these 220 some odd congressmen. I mean, we've only got 218 right now. We're on the razor's edge. We need to win every single congressional seat and lots more. Chris, we got some interesting people on our Facebook.
Yes, we do.
Does anybody know this guy named Phil Valencia? Does that ring a bell?
I don't know. Valencia oranges are my favorites.
Valencias, kind of a weird name. Yeah. We have a Valencia in the studio as well. We sure do. So Phil's on there. Lisa's on there. We got a ton of people, Chris, on the stream today. Amy's on there. Tanya's saying lots of good stuff to us. We got Scotty on there. Lisa. Holy Toledo. We got a lot of folks. Mm-hmm. Everybody's inside today, right? Because it's so miserable outside and cold. And, we're happy that all of you could join us. Thanks for chiming in. Amy, I think I said Amy already. And have a great week. Oh, Kristen responded to your question.
Yeah, that's what I was asking. On the stream, anybody have any big plans? What's her plans?
Cub Scouts Pinewood Derby with her son, the first Pinewood Derby.
It's going to be too cold for that, isn't it?
Inside.
Oh,
inside.
okay.
Yeah,
I was going to say.
They do the little cars.
Okay. I thought it was the
little cars.
I was like, man, it's too cold to be out in a homemade vehicle going down the street.
The little blocks of wood.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I competed many times in the Pinewood Derby, and the trick is to add a little nitrous tank in the back, and you have to scream, "Hit it!" and then it'll shoot right off the track, and you'll win.
Like Fast and Furious.
Exactly. It's family in the Cub Scouts. I don't know if you know that.
You just brought back a great memory for me. In 8th grade in shop class, we made these little dragster-like cars.
Mm-hmm. Me too.
And you know what I'm talking about, don't you?
Little canisters.
And we drilled a hole in the back of it, and you put the nitrous oxide canister in there. And our shop teacher made this little device where you could put 2 cars in this thing, and it would come down and hit the cartridges at the same time, and the cars would take off down the hallway. And we were having races with this thing, and I was so proud because I'm not a mechanically inclined person. My car looked like absolute crap, but I was so happy because my car beat another kid's car who was very, very popular in class. And so I was like, my car beat him. Second round, my car exploded. It did. It exploded down the hallway, but I was happy that I got the victory.
That's
awesome.
awesome.
I can't believe they were still doing that.
Diesel. Yeah,
Vin
I was
Diesel.
doing that
Yeah.
in like 2002. We were still doing
Yeah.
CO2 cars, I think we called them.
Yeah, and Hazelwood Junior High or Hazelwood Middle School, whatever the heck they call it now.
Yep, Hazelwood West for me.
But Mr. Hart, he made the special little device that
Sweet.
that did that.
So
Tim, what's your plans this
So
weekend?
your car was like the Millennium Falcon.
It
was
was,
the
yeah.
fastest bucket of bolts in the.
Yeah.
What do we got
Only-
going on? Let's see. I've got my daughter Abby's got a big dance recital weekend,
okay.
and we're going to be. Suzanne and I are going to start picking out. We're going to start gutting our bathroom in about a month, so we got to go pick out tile.
Oh.
Exciting weekend.
I can tell.
Yeah.
You're excited.
Yes.
Well, thank you, everyone, for listening this week. You, of course, have been listening to the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show. Larry Connors USA, 6 to 8 is next. Everyone, please stay safe, stay warm, and drive careful.
Is your portfolio prepared for the biggest risks facing investors today? Hi, it's Tim Jones. High inflation and a rapidly changing economy may impact your investments. If you haven't made appropriate changes, your portfolio may not be positioned to address some of the biggest risks in today's economy. That means it's time to request your free portfolio review from the ClearPath Wealth Management Group at Stifel. You can hear their latest views on the markets and investing during On the Money, hosted by Stifel financial advisors Bob Stockdale and Eric Robert, every Saturday morning at 9 a.m. on News Talk STL 101.9. They can help you get organized, guide you through critical retirement decisions, and create a portfolio designed around your needs. To schedule your free portfolio review, go to clearpathinvesting.com. That's clearpathinvesting.com, or call 636-695-2650. That's clearpathinvesting.com, 636-695-2650. Stifel Nicholas & Company, Incorporated, member SIPC and NYSE.
Why choose a Sleep Number smart bed? Because no two people sleep the same. Only the Sleep Number smart bed lets you each choose your individual firmness and comfort, your Sleep Number setting. The Climate 360 smart bed is so smart it actively cools or warms up to 13 degrees on either side for your ideal sleep temperature. The Queen Sleep Number C2 smart bed is now only $9.90. Plus, free home delivery when you add any base. Ends Monday. Prices higher in Alaska and Hawaii. To find a store near you, visit Sleep Number.